Hello and welcome to the Business of the Business Podcast. I'm your co-host, JB John Bosch, for the two-man power trip. Of course, joining me, my co-host, the financial wrestling genius himself, Mr. Lavie Margolin. Lavie, how you doing today, sir?
Hey, John. Uniquely, especially for the show, want to just talk Olympics for a moment. Not going to claim that I actually watched any of it live because I kind of felt like the stuff that I wanted to see was on Peacock at weird hours. But wanted to give some love and shout out. A lot of people know I follow Jewish athletes, Israeli athletes. So huge congrats to Amit Elor for winning gold on the women's U.S. wrestling team, who's just 20 years old. So she might dominate the sport for many years to come. And two women judokas who won silver medals in France, Roz Hirschko, and there is also a male Israeli who won a bronze medal as well.
Nice. Very, very cool stuff. What is going on with, is it soft ground wrestling? Is that where we're starting today? SGW?
Yeah, yeah. I can't claim to have a full handle on what's going on, but huge shout out to Cassidy Haynes of Body Slam. If you haven't been following the Body Slam website, they have some great reporters really covering TNA, of course, in depth, especially through YouTube and different articles breaking some of the TNA news regularly. But Cassidy Haynes, the owner of BodySlam.net, had a deep piece basically ripping the cover off of Soft Ground Wrestling. You know, John, as we've talked about over the weeks and months, how many times did it seem like they raised money for a ring, but there was never a ring,
Yeah.
right? And
Yep.
they got Cody Rhodes, the male models, all different sorts of wrestlers to support them and put their money. And one of the male models' moms, according to the article, bought a van for Soft Ground. Um, so really kind of going through the story of fundraising, apparently, and this is from the article, so allegedly, I guess, um, Soft Ground's owner, Daniel Boombash, although he seems to have a number of aliases, sort of deputized somebody as the U.S. ambassador to raise funds. And this person, who wasn't named in the article because they're a minor, so less stress on them, although it seemed like stress had hit them through this experience, was getting blamed and all that sort of stuff. So not really sure how to shake out, who did what when, but the article seems very credible, very in depth, and Soft Ground Wrestling. It was that amazing story where it kind of came out of nowhere, maybe blew up into something really intriguing and special, and now maybe will go away, at least in terms of like from a U.S. perspective, or maybe it's just such a crazy thing that we'll be watching even closer. I mean, there was this story with the money, and then kind of chalking it up just to different culture. The storylines were odd, sometimes intriguingly so, where Lord White was the oppressor, um, touching on themes of religion, not only having a stand-in for Jesus who rose during Easter, but also a skit that wasn't talked about as much, where sort of one wrestler was berating another for how they were dressed. And the person that was getting berated seemed to be dressed very modestly. So I don't want to claim to understand what was going on there exactly, but it didn't make sense to me. And then there was that weird angle with like holding, not necessarily a baby, but like a toddler, very young child by their legs, who didn't really seem to understand the skit that was going on. It was very disturbing, which was later deleted. So a little bit of Soft Ground Wrestling later with the NWA. We'll see if that comes off, but definitely recommend. I got through like 75% of the article, candidly, by Cassidy Haynes, but seek it out. It's really making its way around the internet now, and maybe some fodder for the next season of Dark Side of the Ring.
Very interesting. Sometimes you think you know what's going on, but obviously we were talking about a different country here too, so we really don't know what's going on. But we'll definitely be keeping our eye on them, and we'll definitely be keeping everybody apprised of that situation. Maybe to me, maybe one of the biggest stories of the week, though. I wanted to ask you about this. NXT on CW hitting Chicago, hitting St. Louis. They're going to bring in Punk and Randy Orton. Is this right?
So, for those of us that have watched pro wrestling for a while, which of course is you, John, but many of our
Yep.
listeners too, and watch closely, sort of when WWE has an offshoot brand, a different show, they like to give it a little bit of a rub right away, whether it was like a weekend show on the USA Network going back years, or ECW on Sci-Fi, or maybe the premiere of NXT on Sci-Fi, or certainly competing with AEW. That they'll put a lot of heat on it. Maybe the debut episode and a couple episodes after, so that they can report good ratings. You satisfy the people that are paying you the rights fees, but then they often move on from that. So NXT kicks off the CW era with arena shows, which is really interesting because these are pretty ambitious, arenas that they're booking in Chicago for CM Punk and Randy Orton, in St. Louis, so October 1st and 9th, respectively. I'm trying to avoid saying "if you will." Like a lot of times, film podcasts say "if you will," and I was listening to the TKO earnings report, and even one of the executives there was using it, which is kind of awkward. But that's an aside. So yeah, that's basically the story. That they have these major venues, of course the Allstate Arena and Enterprise Center in St. Louis, so NBA-sized venues, which there's not a lot of time, right? This was announced in early August, a few days into August 6th to be precise. And for people to make plans and so on, and get some attention towards it, you need usually a little bit more time, but I'm sure they'll do the best they can, and there might not be the expectation of course, opening up the whole venue and so on. But if you could get 7,000 or 8,000 people to each of these shows, I think that would be really impressive. One other thing to note about the CW is that working with Nexstar, they and Paramount, I believe, that they've strengthened their stations in a number of markets. We've talked about, that they wouldn't go so far as to say low power stations, but lower profile over the air stations. So now they're in a better position in a number of those markets where they were in a weaker position previously.
Man, I love how we could talk about so many different topics, but we don't really talk about AEW as much. What's going on in the world of AEW?
So the reason that I bring them up is there was two kind of very similar articles coming out of the Greensboro local media that really gave depth to not only their relationship with Joel Coliseum in the market, but sort of gave insight into live events and how TNA is pointed. So I wanted to share some tidbits about that. The promoters of Joel Coliseum and AEW are looking for a mutually beneficial back to the future moment when mainstream pro wrestling returns to Winston-Salem on Wednesday. Winston-Salem, not Greensboro. Their common goal, reestablishing the Coliseum as at least a semi-regular stop for live AEW televised events that could lead to a lucrative potential pay-per-view show. The AEW booking represents the culmination of nearly 10 months of talks between AEW and ASM Global, which began in September, promoting events at Joel on behalf of Coliseum owner Wake Forest University. AEW is a great partner of ASM nationally and works with many of our facilities. Among ASM's other Southeast venues are Cabris Arena in Concord, John Paul Jones Arena in Charlottesville, and North Charleston Coliseum. So this is just insightful in terms of when we say like AEW is running too big a building, or they have a special event where they could draw more fans and so on. Talks began more than 10 months ago. So sometimes you can pivot, and I still do hold them accountable for it, because a year and a half ago, it was clear that they couldn't draw in these NBA arenas, even scaled down to a decent degree, and they still continue to book them and so on. So it is their problem. But it does take a long time out if you're going to utilize major or semi-major arenas. We're excited to leverage that national relationship as a way to introduce AW Live to the Winston-Salem market. Pay-per-view and other broadcasts are all options that both parties will continue to explore. So this was interesting. As we keep talking about like government contracts and incentives, what entertainment company just comes to a venue, pays for the venue, and then makes money from ticket sales anymore? All of these cities, towns, municipalities, chambers of commerce are willing to. A potential incentive for repeat AW business is a 25% rebate on qualifying expenses and through the North Carolina Film and Entertainment Grant, which currently has a designated recurring starting amount of $31 million per fiscal year. So overall, an episodic TV or streaming show would have to spend at least $500,000 in operating expenses per episode to qualify for the rebate. So I don't know how much it costs AEW when they go on the road, but $500,000 per episode. So, that's interesting, because sometimes they'll tape, a couple of different shows, or regular do, right, on one shot. So does it just have to be that one time that you're in the venue, or can you look at it, in different ways? But if you're getting 25% rebate, John, you're in business, so let me know if my numbers are off, right? 500,000, so you get 125,000 back. So if AEW were to spend 375,000, it would be worth it to spend 500 to jazz it up even more, right? Because you're going to get a quarter back. It wouldn't make sense, to spend less than 375.
Right. Yep. Agreed. Totally agree. Very interesting. $500,000 for a show. I mean, obviously, that's the rate, but it just seems like a big number. Very interesting, though, as far as another new wrestling league. I guess this is probably going to be something we're going to be covering a lot more often. What is Maple Leaf Wrestling? What is Scott D'Amore doing back in the business? Is this what he's been planning all along?
So I think this is his. Well, I don't know if he had a backup plan, right? Because he was really all in on TNA. But when this didn't work out, it's basically resurrecting, this old territory. So Scott D'Amore resurrects I didn't even mean to use the same language. Resurrects the legendary brand. So iconic Maple Leaf Wrestling is making a triumphant return to pro wrestling this October, spearheaded by renowned promoter Scott D'Amore. Reviving the historic brand, now known as Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, the excitement ignites with 2 electrifying nights of world-class wrestling action titled Forge in Excellence. MLW, Maple Leaf Wrestling, traces its roots back to the Queensbury Athletic Club in Toronto in the 30s, which became Maple Leaf in the 40s under Frank Tunney. Oh, okay. And ran all the way into the 1980s as one of the world's premier pro wrestling territories. In 1984, it was absorbed as part of the WWF expansion, ending the company's magnificent legacy until now. For 6 decades, Major League Wrestling hosted a who's who of the world's greatest wrestlers. Legends like Lou Thesz, Sammartino, Ric Flair, Andre, Roddy Piper all compete in Maple Leaf. Now we're bringing that legacy back with modern-day legends from WWE, New Japan, TNA, AW, and beyond. Already confirmed for the 2 back-to-back events, Maharaja, Raj Desi, 2-time TNA World Champion Josh Alexander, Giselle Shaw, Kushida, Alex Zane, Kevin Knight, Jake Something, plus indie superstars Kylie Ray and Trevor Lee, the former Cameron Grimes. Both nights of Maple Leaf Pro Forge in Excellence will stream on Triller, ensuring fans around the world can witness the return of this historic promotion. In addition to live shows, Maple Leaf Pro is in the process of uploading its historic library to YouTube, Facebook, and other digital platforms. So that was really interesting to me, right? We talk about like what catalogs are still available. Maple Leaf Um, now that I know that it's Tunney's promotion, I wasn't thinking about it much, right? They would be able to get stars coming in from the WWF, from the NWA, I think even from the AWA at certain times. So this could be a really interesting catalog. Adam Bigwood of Triller said, "We're incredibly excited to bring Maple Leaf brand to Triller. This is okay. Fans can expect an extraordinary experience as we stream Forge and Excellence, continuing the legacy." So, John, it's Scott D'Amore. It's in Canada. So, any guesses as to where this will take place?
Toronto, right?
So, his favorite venue, St. Clair College, Windsor, Ontario, Canada.
Oh, nice. I like it. I
So
like it.
he still has that other brand though, right? Border City
Border
Wrestling.
City. Yeah.
So this one isn't hedging any border bets. This one's like all in on the Canadian side.
Yes.
And TNA hasn't exactly embraced it, but as we've talked about it, and I've often thought about, like, rather than being seen as like the third brand in the US or North America, like why not be Canada's greatest brand, right? Like, so maybe Scott D'Amore, is obviously going for something like that with the Canadian branding.
I like it. Now, we're talking about obviously Canada, but what about Germany? What's going on with WXW?
So just thematically, we haven't talked as much about Triller in a while. There was a little bit of Triller controversy that kind of went away, where a promoter had said that they tried to receive payment and then they weren't paid, but there was an article published on a major website, but then it was removed. Maybe some of the facts were corrected. I was candidly in touch with the Triller PR team at the time to try and sort it out, but once that article disappeared, it was a little bit unclear as to where everything stood. So kind of left that alone as the major story, but just wanted to touch upon that as since the last time we talked about Triller, now that was kind of something that was in the public sphere for a little while. But obviously, as these bigger promotions or promotions with potential continue to sign up for Triller, it doesn't seem like there's any particular issue that's present at the moment, although they're just signing up. So if there are issues later, maybe we would hear about it. There is that in the public domain, if you will, with the music side of Triller, where there has been complaints for a while in terms of payments and so on. But I haven't been watching that as closely. But to get back to our main point, WXW Germany is going to be on Triller. That's the main point. WXW begins collaboration with Triller TV since WXW 16 Karat Gold. WXW has been offering all filmed events as live streams on their own platform. WXW now is a members area of their YouTube channel. But let's see, it's hard to start out here. In addition to German language live on their platform, they'll also offer an English language live stream on Triller Plus. So that's basically the story. We'll have to see how that all pans out. But it's interesting to see this like balance of like some wrestling promotions leaning heavier on like the premium side of YouTube. Maybe that's an answer. What was it was like hosted streaming paywall that people would use for their wrestling promotion, or promotions would use for their content. It was the division that was owned by Chicken Soup for the Soul, which went bankrupt and then closed that service. So maybe that's why people are using more of the YouTube Premium now. But it's interesting to see that balance with Triller Plus.
Quickly, I guess we could talk about New Japan, right? We just want to talk about that one show. So did Sasha Banks, aka Mercedes Monet, did she help the draw for this show, or is this show still not drawing?
Yes. So Mercedes Moné, when she was, of course, out of WWE and affiliated with New Japan, and did a couple shows stateside, it really, especially on the West Coast, lifted things. But in terms of her being announced, so I have this. Let's see. Actually, it's a little bit unclear from WrestleTix when this was announced, but it doesn't seem to have like really popped things much for a show happening on August 30th. The current setup in Washington, D.C. is just under 2,800 and just above 1,200 tickets moved, 112 tickets in the last 7 days. So not bad movement for 7 days, but we're about 3 weeks out. So if that keeps moving along, right, they might finish at 15 or 1,600. So that would be pretty. I would say you'd have to be disappointed if you're bringing international and big name talent. Anything under 2,000, even with a difficult market right now.
Let's talk about GCW. What's going on with Game Changer Wrestling? I was not able to go to Can I Trust You, by the way, because it was sold out. I should have gotten tickets. I'm a dope. I thought I could get them day of. No.
John, you should have gone to the back door and been like, "Get Brett out here. He knows me."
Yeah, I know. I was actually thinking, I was like, I should probably just message Brett, like, hey, Brett, you could probably get me in, right? But I was like, well, I don't want to bother him while he's busy.
Yeah. So especially like, in an area that I don't think he lives too far outside of, I'm sure different people are stopping by when they know he's in town. So firstly, there was the August 2nd show at Temple Live Cleveland, which we've been following for a while. So WrestleTix had a number that I think was the final number of 633. 108 were since like the day before update move. So it's pretty big movement at the end. Matt Hardy was there. But this I don't know how this accounting is working because the setup was listed, and this might have counted from WrestleTix like every seat that was possible in this like theater style venue, which AIW uses regularly, as 1,150. But when GCW was tweeting out the recap and so on clips of it, I think they used words like I don't know if they said sold out but full, or it gave that impression. So I don't see how that can be claimed. There's always that promotional flexibility, but in terms of looking at the numbers for what they are, that's something that I'm just curious about. Like you mentioned, John, Asbury Park was sold out. That was promoted as like a big announcement that returned. So that was like, I don't know, as we talked about before, I don't know if it was that big an announcement, but obviously it was successful for them. But John, you Atlantic City 23rd. So is that no? That's the Saturday before Thanksgiving, right? That's not the day after Black Friday.
Good,
Um,
good
right? When is
question.
Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving is the
Let me
28th. The 28th.
28th. Okay, so this is okay. So Saturday before, so that actually tends to be a time people might go shopping, right? But we've talked about on the show how wrestling is and would be a good fit for American Dream. There has been, I think, at least one independent show there. They're doing stuff with Arena Football League, and they have hockey games and so on. I guess in New Jersey, right, you can have blood and all that stuff, obviously, because they have the Tournament of Death.
Mhm.
But I think it'll be interesting to see like if this relationship continues, because it's not going to it's the same owners as Mall of America, really the biggest malls in the world. And I give myself some my parents building as part of the family. It's excited to talk about American Dream all the time, so it's on my mind. Can they tone it down and do a show that is appropriate for a mainstream mall, right? Like, and I think they can for sure, because in New York they run Without Blood and all that sort of stuff. So I think you just have to be careful to maintain this relationship, because it could be a good one, and really interesting to see. Might this be something you'd want to check out, John?
Yes, I am interested in this big time. I don't know. I'm super intrigued. At great, cool venue as well. Awesome.
I never made it out there, but my family went to the water park. I think the following week there were some issues with like things falling from the ceiling, but I'm sure that's been resolved. But like it was just like amazing that they were there one week, and then like in the news the next week were some issues. But I've heard great things about it, so love to get out there sometime. Just looking at GCW's forthcoming schedule, a little bit of a breather after their big weekend in Cleveland and then in New Jersey. So they'll be in Japan for a triple shot. One day teaming with DDT, and then they're on their own a couple days that follow. Back to LA on August 17th, and on August 18th in Salt Lake City. Then the aforementioned Atlantic City shows homecoming weekend, so really cap off the end of the summer for them, August 24th and 25th. Chicago on August 31st. Detroit on September 14th. Rochester on the 15th to follow. Now back in Harris, so the Philadelphia market now regularly September 20th. It didn't look like they moved that many tickets last time, but obviously to return so quickly, it seems like a mutually beneficial relationship. Hartford on September 21st, and then Honolulu on November 2nd. I feel like there was an announcement of back to Atlantic City already, so I'm actually looking at the cage match, but should have probably grabbed from their social media because there's a few more dates here. But just a general picture, and we'll delve back into GCW in the next week or two, really looking at the ticket sales week by week.
Now, as far as TNA is concerned, what is going on with TNA wrestling?
So, firstly, they're going back to San Antonio on September 13th or 14th, 13th and 14th. It's a open ticket map, but you have to put your cursor over each section to see. It was interesting to see because it looks like that venue has like a stage on one side, like sort of like concert style, but the ring is set up in the middle of the floor. So there were plenty of tickets available when it was just a day or two on sale, so something to follow. Now, the Bound for Glory, I feel like when they first announced like a teaser for Bound for Glory, they were like, it'll be a top 10 worldwide tourist destination, something like that. But maybe something changed, or maybe my ability to know where people are going these days changed, but they'll be in Detroit. And was trying to before they announced where they would be, was trying to like figure out like, what's a few thousand person venue in Detroit or in a related area. So I was trying to figure out, is it in the Fillmore, Masonic Temple, Big Boy Arena in Fraser, Michigan, but they'll be in Wayne State at the Field House, which looks like a great venue. 3,000 seats, general capacity for them. So you have room to work with, if it's if Bound for Glory isn't as hot a ticket, you could probably scale it down a bit. But then if there's something that really pops the interest, you have a room to work with. So just looking at their forthcoming schedule. So the end of August, they'll be in Louisville. We talked about San Antonio. Then there's their run through the Carolinas. So there was rumors not rumors necessarily, but it was being reported that the Hardys met with WWE over SummerSlam weekend. So interesting to see like where they're pointing, like what's Matt Hardy's deal with TNA, because he worked one night of the TNA tapings with GCW instead. But they'll be in Spartanburg, Fayetteville, and Winston, and then Atlanta at the end of the month.
Very interesting stuff. I feel like OVW had some big stuff going on. They got the national tour. They've got a lot going on. Tell us about OVW.
Yes, so Dan O's sponsorship continues as their national tour, and I don't know if it's because of Dan O's or just wanting to be more ambitious. They're booking, as we've talked about, a number of large venues, some larger maybe than they need necessarily, but they'll be at Mountain View Amphitheater on August 10th, so that might have occurred by the time that you see this. So there's just a couple rows of reserve seats for that one, but I love this ticket map because it shows the GA, but like the actual number of GA available, which looks like a few hundred as I look at it quickly. Then they'll be at Riverfront Live in Cincinnati on August 16th, which has an indoor capacity of 1,300. They'll be August 17th at the Packard Music Hall, which is about 1,900 tickets set up. I only saw one WrestleTix coverage of this on July 30th, so a little bit more than a week ago. Had about 575 tickets distributed. Then they'll be at Turner Hall, which has a has a capacity standing just under 1,000. At Appalachian Wireless Arena. So this is interesting that WrestleTix covered. So they killed some seats in this big venue. It's now set for just under 5,000. It was a couple thousand more previously, and they've distributed 582 tickets. Again, in my opinion, it looks like some of those tickets were never on sale. So I think that final number will be lower. They have a free show that will be taking place in Logansport, Indiana. So, you could always, of course, budget that and make some money. And they'll be at the Kentucky State Fair on August 23rd and 24th. The second day is 2 shows. I'm not sure if that's just free with admission to the fair or if it's a separate ticket. I feel like it's free to the fair. And good news for them, the Davis Arena, which we had covered maybe a month ago, that it had shut down for sort of renovation and repair. They're in late August, they'll be ready to return to their regular weekly shows, at least at the Davis Arena.
What is going on with Limitless Wrestling?
So just continuing to watch their ambitious show on August 17th. Of the floor seating, there is just 7 tickets remaining. And then of the risers, there's plenty of tickets left, but they've sold some seats in the first 3 rows. Obviously, it would just be through Google Alert coverage. I'm not going through every local venue in Lewiston. But I haven't seen a lot of more local press since this show was announced and they told the story of booking the venue. So you'd want to see that start to pick up, get some of the locals or some of the vacationers to check out the show, really to get a good number.
How about ROW, Reality of Wrestling? What's the latest? And maybe Walker, Texas Ranger. What's going on?
Yeah, so the my favorite arena name, Walker Texas Lawyer Arena. They've been running out of there for a while, but just showing sort of this relationship with, like I talked about, with places like Chambers of Commerce. They actually had a special ribbon cutting ceremony for this event with all community members invited to attend. And just looking at their shows, it tends to be they tend to be doing well relatively with their few hundred seat setup. On August 10th, they added 75 general admission seats, and they'll have limited standing room only. So really trying to pack the venue out.
Now, as far as the NWA is concerned, what is going on with them? And obviously, they've got a huge show coming up in Philadelphia, of all places, at the end of August.
Yeah, so show in Philadelphia, they're continuing to name talent, but doesn't look like they've moved a tremendous amount of seats at the 2300 arena. The first row is gone, but most of the way around, most of the second row is still available. So we'll have to see if they beat JD Vance, our
Yes.
potential next
Yep.
vice president,
Yep.
in terms of the ability to draw at the arena. But next, which the NWA seems to be under controversy sometimes, but EC3 had been in talks with Soft Ground Wrestling to defend the title there, and I was like, they should switch the title before all of this happened, just to kind of keep it interesting. But EC3 isn't one to shy away from controversy either, so I'm sure if he still has a good feeling about SGW and Corgan isn't concerned about having the belt over there, that maybe something unique will take place. Oh, so this gives me the opportunity to talk about seeing Billy Corgan.
Yeah, how was it?
So for Green Day, it was a great show, really historic. I'm not as young as I used to be, so I was pretty tired on the subway back, but that was
Yes.
amazing. I was there for Smashing Pumpkins set, and recognized their most famous songs, and they did focus on that part of the catalog. So enjoyed that. Now, Mike Johnson reported that there was an angle that made a lot of waves during the set. Now, admittedly, I was in the upper deck, so I didn't see it as well. The only thing that I really noticed was what is her name? Natalia Markova. She came out with Corgan's children, who come out, and I learned this from the reality show, which you saw, series which you saw as well, John, where they put on headphones and they dance around for a song. So, shoot, I forgot his name, but the guy that was the controversial wrestler
Brian Idol.
promoter. Thank you, Idol. So he came out and was annoying them, and then there was fought him off or whatever. I didn't see any of this. So I don't know how big a splash it made with the audience. Maybe for people that could see it, that was intriguing. I don't know if it was designed or whatever to make more NWA fans, but why not? The music sounded good. Whatever shtick they were doing, it wasn't something that I noticed.
Interesting. Wrestling storylines during the concert, very interesting. But as far as Mission Pro is concerned, are
Yes.
they done? Or is Mission Pro done?
Yes. So I am exhibiting my Thunder Rosa T-shirt right now.
Oh, nice. Didn't
We
realize
were
that. Nice.
fortunate to have the co-owner of Mission Pro more than a year ago on our program. But a special message from Thunder Rosa. As we approach Mission Pro's 5-year anniversary, we are thankful to have built a brand that features the best in women's wrestling and a company that strives to provide a safe environment for women to showcase their talents. We are proud to have helped launch the careers of many women who are now worldwide stars. From our first Genesis show, we knew Mission Pro would be a wrestling promotion that would stand out from the crowd. After being stalled by the pandemic, in early 2020, we returned in September of that year. Have been going nonstop. After much consideration, our team has decided that Mission Pro will go on hiatus after August 17th, Midsummer Blast in San Antonio. This will be our last show of 2024, and no future show dates will be announced. This is not an easy decision. We understand that this is disappointing news to Mission Pro fans, financial supporters, and talent. Please know that we are committed to using our time away as an opportunity to reset and recalibrate our organization. um, structure and goals to be better served. In the meantime, we look forward to seeing you at our August 17th show. So, um, if anything, I guess it's a challenge because when Thunder Rosa co-started the promotion with her husband in 2019, I think she was with the NWA still, right? Like she hadn't yet grown on AEW. I think she had made some initial appearances and then came over full-time later. And then for about a year to 18 months, she was probably one of the top 3 or 2 stars in the women's division in AEW. Somebody can certainly correct me with that. Maybe right along upside there
Definitely was. Yeah.
with Brett Baker.
Yep.
But then, got injured, and then there was controversy and so on, and was out for a really long time. I'm not sure if she really reestablished herself. All of that being said, when you have a national star and they have their own promotion, you would figure it would grow. But maybe there's like a split between, the most opportunity to make money is like being that star. And then you can like maybe grow your home promotion from 150 to 300 people, maybe doing shows with 600 or 700, because you're a top star, but maybe like it's diminishing returns. It might work better to, like she said, go on hiatus, and then in a few years when her career is winding down, like have that like Booker T model where you can wrestle sometimes and take a step back at other times, but you're always there as the foundation of things. I'm not sure what their status is, but I believe a few years ago we had an article where her son was making his debut at a small show. So I'm not well, if Mission Pro is exclusively women's wrestling, obviously he wasn't wrestling there, but it might be also focusing on helping his career to grow as well.
Nice. Now, what's going on with the Wrestling Open? What's the latest with them?
So as I said, I'm not as young as I used to be. So doesn't mean anything to me as a musical act, but I have a feeling that Clario means something to a number of people. So indie pop artist and Carlis native Clario films music video at White Eagle, reported Worcester magazine. Indie pop artist Clario released her first music video in several years on Sunday, and it's a Massachusetts celebration filmed in July at the White Eagle during the weekly professional wrestling show Wrestling Open. So that's basically the context of the article. So really interesting, unique opportunity for publicity for Wrestling Open and Beyond Wrestling, who still is the centerpiece of IWTV, which I don't see as much anymore, in the spotlight. You tend to hear about, other streaming platforms and resources more now.
Now, as far as Lucha is concerned, what is going on? Are we talking about Match Republic here? What's going on with Lucha?
So this is CMLL focused in Mexico, a unique article. I'm not sure how much it warrants sharing all of it, but the Latin American Post had Mexican wrestling event highlighted national food waste crisis awareness, kind of demonstrating the tons of food are wasted annually. Organizers call for civil society support to combat this issue in an innovative effort to address the insecurity. Mexican organizations have launched a wrestling event to highlight the issue. Announced, the event underscores the stark contrast between widespread hunger and massive food waste. Mariana Jimenez, director of the Red de Bancos de Alimentos de Mexico, emphasized the crucial role of civil society in tackling this crisis during a press conference. We need the support of society because through these sporting events, people can contribute to reducing the number of those who suffer from hunger. In this context, the Confederation Association of Customs Agents of the Mexican Republic, in collaboration with Red de Bancos de Alimentos and the World Council of Lucha Libre, CMLL, presented the Lucha Contra El Hambre event. This initiative aims to raise awareness about hunger. So just to show that CMLL and Lucha Libre is such a key to society that they'd be involved in a high-profile, important event like this. Just like we saw it, well, in a different context, the importance of wearing masks. The luchadors were sort of out and showing masks, to protect yourself from disease at that time.
And finally, what's going on with Jack at the Wrestling Universe? What is the latest with that?
Yes, so I've always wanted to get out to Wrestle Universe, the store in Queens, all the different appearances and collectibles and so on. I was even thinking about it before I knew it was, I believe the store front is temporarily closed. So before the show where I saw Smashing Pumpkins, like we mentioned, in Green Day, because it's in Queens. Well, but store seems to be in trouble. The owner has some issues to manage, so there's currently a Kickstarter to raise some funds. Wrestling superstores are less unique than they used to be. I know John, one of your friends, runs one in New Jersey that's doing well.
Yep.
But Wrestle Universe, is really a staple and something people would talk about. And if people could avoid helping it go away, all the better. So check out the Kickstarter. As of when I grabbed this, about $7,000 was raised.
All right, not bad. Hopefully, more people will see that and they could save the Wrestling Universe, because that is a pretty awesome wrestling venue. But I got to get there. I know you said you got to get there, but I got to get there too. I've seen so many good wrestlers come in and out of there. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I think actually I'm not sure if it was postponed, but Vince Russo was listed there as appearing very recently as well. So you never know who will be there. I'm sure. I
Yeah.
think Bret Hart, of course, has been through
Yep.
there. I'm sure more than once at this point.
All right, let's wrap this bad boy up and head towards the plugs. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Two Man Power Trip. How about you, Lavie? What's going on?
So John got us started off with the LinkedIn group. As we continue to grow, I actually posted a few job listings related, some directly to pro wrestling, some peripherally, like Upper Deck production designers. They've been looking for somebody that one of their areas of knowledge is pro wrestling. So check out the group not only for news and connections, but job listings, the business of the business. Follow me on X at Lavie Marg, LAVIE MARG. We are distributed by the Creative Control Network and the official business podcast of PW Ponderings.
All right, thank you everybody out there for listening. See you right back here next week for a little business of the business. We'll see you.